Jana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. जय योग धर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवत गीता की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So we are reading from chapter 10, text 23. Rudrāṇāṁ śaṅkaraśasmi, Rudrāṇāṁ śaṅkaraśasmi, vitteśo yakṣa-rakṣasām, vitteśo yakṣa-rakṣasām, vasūnām pāvakaś, vasūnām pāvakaś, meru śikhariṇām aham, meru śikhariṇām aham, rudrāṇāṁ śaṅkaraśasmi, vitteśo yakṣa-rakṣasām, vasūnām pāvakaś, meru śikhariṇām aham. Asmi, vitteśo yakṣa-rakṣasām, asmi, vitteśo yakṣa-rakṣasām, asmi, vitteśo yakṣa-rakṣasām, Mataji, 5-word meaning. Rudrāṇāṁ, of all the Rudras. śaṅkaraḥ, Lord Śiva. Cha, also. Asmi, I am. Vitta-īśaḥ, the Lord of treasury of demigods. yakṣa-rakṣasām, of the Yakṣas and the Rākṣasas. vasūnām, of the Vasus. pāvakaḥ, fire. Cha, also. Asmi, I am. meruḥ, Meru. śikhariṇām, of all mountains. Aham, I am. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Śiva. Of the Yakṣas and Rākṣasas, I am the Lord of wealth, Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. And of mountains, I am Meru. Please repeat. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Śiva. Of the Yakṣas and Rākṣasas, I am the Lord of wealth, Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. And of mountains, I am Meru. Purport. There are 11 Rudras, of whom Śaṅkara, Lord Śiva, is predominant. He is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, in charge of the mode of ignorance in the universe. The leader of the Yakṣas and the Rākṣasas is Kuvera, the master treasurer of the demigods, and he is a representation of the Supreme Lord. Meru is a mountain famed of its rich natural resources. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnana-anjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this chapter is entitled The Opulences of the Absolute. So the middle 6 chapters, as we have heard about Bhagavad Gita, are the cream of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is talking about directly devotional service. So 9th chapter was the most confidential knowledge, in which Krishna describes about devotional services. And now in this chapter, Krishna will describe about his opulences. Nahi aa raha hai? Sorry? Hare Krishna. I think kuch gunj raha hai. Yeah. So here Krishna will describe about the opulences, and also in this same chapter we have the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10.8, 9, 10, 11 we discussed about that. And then Arjuna is asking, sun raha hai? Then Arjuna is asking to Krishna to explain about his opulences. What Arjuna is telling? O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand you personally. So he is admitting Arjuna is a great devotee, and we all know that he is asking these questions for the benefit of humanity in general. He himself it's not that Arjuna was not aware of the science of soul. Arjuna was aware of, but this conversation between Arjuna and Krishna was for the benefit of the humanity. So here he is telling that it is not easy for demons or the demigods to understand your opulences. So kindly tell us more about you. This is another quality of a devotee, that he wants to hear more and more about the Lord. That comes bodhayante parasparam, tushyanti ramanti cha. That is the most important quality devotee should have, that he is inclined to hear more and more about the Lord. The way Parikshit Maharaj, he forgot to eat, forgot to sleep, and he was so absorbed in hearing from Sukadeva Goswami that he just went on describing Krishna's pastimes. And then Arjuna says that, indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. He's still describing, please tell me, Arjuna is telling, please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. So Arjuna is very intelligently asking this question that, tell us something which we can relate every day with you, from the material manifestation also. Wherever we go, we should just think about the Lord. This is what he's asking. What he's asking? Please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all this world. Everywhere you can see the presence of the Lord. That is his question, that how to do that. Tell us more about that. O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I consistently think of you? Because he didn't want it that only when I chant I remember you, only when Bhagavad Gita class I remember you, only when I am taking darshan I remember you. He's asking because Krishna says, Satatam kirtayanto mam. So he's asking now, how? O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you? And how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered? So he's taking that permission, that is this the only form which I am seeing, is in that I can remember you? Or there are more forms which is possible where I can remember about you. Tell me about all those forms. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, please. Then, O Janardhan, again please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satisfied in hearing about you. For the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. So, this is why Srila Prabhupada gave us this program. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Morning we have Bhagavatam class, evening we have Bhagavad Gita class. So more and more we hear about the Lord, more and more we listen from the devotees about the glories of the Lord, more our faith enhances, more our devotion increases in the Lord, more our love increases for the Lord, the more we hear about it. This is a simple process. There is no other thing. We might think, oh, I cannot develop that love, but if we are following the basic process, it is natural that it will come. There is no escapism to it. It is given. If we follow this process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, it is given that faith will be increasing in the Lord, and gradually we will start developing more and more love for the Lord and His creation. So the process is Shravanam Kirtanam. And then Krishna starts describing. So today, from slok number 19-20, Krishna describes about his opulences, how we can see him. And today's verse is describing that of all the Rudras, I am Lord Śiva, of the Yakṣas and the Rākṣasas, I am the Lord of wealth Kuvera, of the Vasus, I am the fire, and of the mountains, I am the Meru. So this shloka has, in general, this chapter, if you will read, Krishna is describing in a way that is best of the category. Any category which he is discussing, he is the best in that. So we should not think that which is less important is not energy of the Lord. More or less, it is all emanating from the Lord. But here he is describing that what is best, like in the mountain, here it is written Meru. So we hear about Meru that it is a mountain made of gold. Sumeru also, it is called Sumeru. Sumeru, even in our beads, the main bead is called like that, right, which we don't cross over. What do we call that bead? Right, we call like that. So we don't cross it over because it is Krishna, like that. So he's best of all the categories. So in this material world we see there are different categories of animals, different categories of birds, different categories of rivers, there are so many categories. But in all of these categories, Krishna is describing that whatever is best is me. So that we can relate, like for in the house. For in the house, the chief of the house is the main person. He's supposed to be the best. So when you relate with that person, you relate with the entire house. Each and every member of the family, may it be, for example, Narendra Prabhu is the head of the family. Then if you relate with him, that means you relate with the son, you relate with the son's wife, his children, his wife, the entire family. So it does not demean the other members of the category. This is what we are trying to understand. So when Krishna says, I am the best in the category, that does not mean that we cannot see Krishna in the other things. Like if Krishna says, I am the Sumeru mountains in the mountain category, that does not mean that when we see other mountains, we cannot see Krishna. In other words, this is strongly emphasizing that Krishna is present everywhere. In every being, Krishna is present. This is what Krishna tells. Before Arjuna asks, Krishna is already telling that everything material and everything spiritual is from me. But then Arjuna is asking in detail, so Krishna is describing. But we have to be very clear that every single thing we have to learn to be appreciating that it is creation of the Lord. That is what, when Arjuna asks, how you pervade across in the material manifestation, tell me more about that. What other forms we can see you? What other forms can we see you? Because it's not that every time we are present in the temple or standing before the altar taking darshan. So Arjuna wanted Satatam. How? On the battlefield, now you are asking me to fight. How will I see you there, fighting with these people? So it's a very practical question, that how we can see presence of the Lord every time. So Krishna very mercifully is expanding this whole chapter, opulence of the Absolute, that how he is present in everything. So he starts with Shiva. So like Shiva is considered to be manifesting from Brahmaji, like when Brahma had these 4 Kumaras and he wanted these 4 Kumaras to increase the progeny, to expand more and more population on the universe. But then these 4 Kumaras decided to remain brahmachari, and that was not very well received by Brahma, and Brahma was little angry with that. But somehow the 4 Kumaras did not got convinced to change the ashram from brahmacharya to a grahastha life. So he was little angry, and from that anger, the Rudra manifest. And so it is combined swarup of ignorance and passion. Brahma was little angry at that time when they didn't agree with his own son, 4 Kumaras, and Rudra manifest. So Rudra also means cry. He was crying, and he also makes cry. He's a empowered personality to create destruction, Lord Śiva. So, and Shiva has also many good qualities because he is one of the greatest Vaishnava. So, like Krishna has all 64 qualities, but then other demigods have less, but Shiva is special in that category. He is in between the Jiva and the Supreme Personality. So the 5 qualities which Shiva has is always situated in constitutional position. He is all-knowing, so he is also Sarvagya. He is always young. Shiva is also always young, Navyovanam. Then he is also Sachidanand. Shiva is also Sachidanand Swarup. And he also has all mystic powers and potencies. So this is the 5 special things which Lord Shiva has, which also Krishna has, but Krishna has in full. Shivji doesn't have in full, but still he has partially. He has these qualities in partiality, which other Jiva doesn't have. That he is all-knowing, always situated in constitutional position, he is Sachidanand, always young, and all mystic powers and potencies. So this is something special about him. And Rudra is anger, so regarding he personifies anger. So we devotees are not allowed to be using the anger in general, but in rare cases we see that devotees like Hanumanji has used the principle of anger, but that was used for the pleasure of the Lord. The objective was not to take his own advantage or to prove that he is somebody capable of defeating Ravana. That was not the mood of Hanumanji, but the mood was to serve Lord Ramchandra. So this principle of anger has to be used very sparingly, and at least specifically for devotees who are not very much advanced should rarely use it, because that will only doing more damage to our consciousness. So when we show anger, which is for our own fulfillment of lust, as Gita says, only we become angry when our lusts are not, when our desires are not fulfilled. So then only the anger manifests. So we have to be very careful that this anger should not disturb us, because if we are, and anger is generally visible through the eyes. Even if somebody is controlling, anger he tries to control, but still we can make out seeing the eyes of that person, because it depicts in the eyes. So this principle of anger has to be moderately, or not, I mean not moderately, but even best is not to use that in our dealings among the Vaishnavas. And it is very dangerous if we try to use it in our dealing with the devotees, because it can harm, or it can finish all our good qualities. It is that bad to be angry on someone, because when we try to be angry on someone, we are trying to become the master of the situation. But our principle is das dasanudas. That is the consciousness we have to cultivate, that I am the servant. So if anybody is asking us to do some service, we should be ready to be doing it. There is nothing special that, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. This categorization when we do, it creates anger. So when Krishna is describing this category, he is making it clear that everything is Krishna. So he is describing, in animals I am this. He will cover every single thing. When we observe this chapter minutely, he will be covering everything is me, nothing else. This is where Krishna wants our consciousness to be raised to. We cannot tell that Krishna is not here. Like once, Srila Prabhupada says that even these people, if they want to drink wine, while drinking wine, they should think of Krishna. So the point is consciousness. If we are not drinking wine, we are following some good principles, but if we are not meditating on the Lord, what is the benefit? So the purpose is to be Krishna conscious. So all the rules should take us to this principle of Krishna consciousness. That is why Krishna is explaining that I am all pervading. I am pervading entirely across the manifestation. Everything you see is nothing but me. Because there is other sloka where it says that Pandita Shamadarshina, in all living being, Krishna is there. Krishna is present as Paramatma, is expanded himself in each and every species we know or we don't know. Krishna is, otherwise how will it move? He is the consciousness, is the principle which makes the thing alive and producing, growing, decaying, and finally dying. So it is very important that we understand that whenever we are trying to be angry on any situation, that means we are trying to be becoming master of that situation. Otherwise, how will we become angry? Sometimes we may feel that, servants also get angry. That means they are trying to become master, as simple as that. It's not that just by assuming some menial service, we are accepting that we will never become angry. The real menial thing means you just keep serving. Whatever situation is arranged, you keep serving the Lord, assuming that this is arranged by the Lord. Because He is the controller. He is present in everything. Everything that has happened is just by His sanction. That is the principle we have to understand. Otherwise, we are ourselves debating from the chief principle that Krishna is the controller. If we are trying to be using this principle of anger in our devotee dealing or dealing with anybody, that means we are defying this very basic understanding that Krishna is the controller. So, it is said that, Hanumanji became angry, he went to the Lanka, he put Lanka on the fire, but his focus was very clear. He was instructed by the Lord to achieve a task, and for achieving that task, he was exhibiting that. Otherwise, he has no business for his personal enjoyment. He has nothing to prove that he was a competent servant of the Lord. Even after doing it, he never felt that he was a competent or very, very efficient servant of the Lord. So it is all about consciousness. With what consciousness we are executing a service makes us more and more Krishna conscious. It makes us more and more appreciative of the Lord. It makes us more and more appreciative of the devotees we are connected to. And it makes us more and more Krishna conscious. So that is the sum and substance we are trying to understand today. Then another example given here is Kuvera. Kuvera is a yaksha. So yaksha is said that yakshas are divine personalities. They are between humans and demigods. They are not like demigods, not like empowered like demigods, and not like us humans, but they are in between. Kuvera, and Kuvera is like yaksha and raksha. Two words is used here. So Rakshas is like Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Vibhishan and Surpankha are considered to be the siblings from the same family with Kuvera. So they are like from one family, but he is yaksha and they are Rakshasas. And Kuvera has two sons, Nalkuvar and Manigriva, we know that. So among this category, Krishna is putting himself as Kuvera. So he is a very important, and then we also know this has also connected with Vidurji, this pastime, that he was also in the category of that, and has some punishment they manifest in this life like Vidura. Sumeru I already explained that Sumeru is the biggest mountain and it is made of gold, pure gold. And here Srila Prabhupada writes about this mountain that Meru is a mountain famed for its rich natural resources. So in general, mountains have a lot of natural resources for the subsistence, and from that Krishna is putting himself as the best mountain. But as I said, that this is just one category, but the principle is that Krishna, all the category and everything in the category is from Krishna's energy. Nothing is independent of the Lord, and it can be seen when we understand the principle that everything is manifesting by Krishna's energy. And for a devotee, it is still easy to understand that when we are chanting, the Krishna's name is different, non-different from the Lord. When we are doing deity worship, that is directly worship of the Lord. But this is very important for people who are not fully Krishna conscious. This question, how we can see Krishna everywhere. Sun, moon, trees, birds. So everything Krishna is connecting with himself. So the all-pervasiveness of the Lord is the key message from this shloka. And these four categories which is covered here, we have touched, and the fourth is Agni, fire. So, fire every day we are using for some or the other thing. So when we are using fire, we should try immediately relate the Lord. Like for the fire, he also says in 15th chapter that I am the fire of digestion. So we cannot even digest our own food without the mercy of the Lord. We cannot even digest our own food because he gives the fire of digestion comes from the Lord. Vaishvanara heat. Prabhupada writes it in the purport. Vaishvanara heat. So basically, everything that we see which is manifested in this material world is nothing but Krishna's energy, and Krishna's presence in all of those has to be understood. So when we connect this principle, now we have started this project of farm community on the Ajay land. So this is a very important principle which our devotees who are living there are trying to follow. Like even a small grass which is growing there, we try to understand that this also has Paramatma in it, so we cannot even damage that. Even the small insects which are coming on the crop, it also has Krishna's presence in it, so we cannot even kill those insects, because the modern education says that they are weeds, they are pests, so we have to kill them. But this is against the principle of Krishna consciousness. So this project is in a way encouraging devotees to very much relate with this creation of the Lord, because when you live on the land, you live with the cows and the bulls, you can feel that how Krishna arranges things. But in the artificial city life, it is very difficult to relate this aspect. But in the rural environment, in the village environment, where we live a life depending on Mother Earth, depending on Mother Cow, depending on the nature for our survival, that enhances our consciousness very fast, very quickly. I mean, 2 days back we went to a village, which is like Ranwari, it's very near when you go to Chhata on the left, and not 2 days back, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday we went, and it was raining heavily. It started raining. And we were in the village, and there were a lot of fields around, and we asked the villager, so will this rain damage the crop? He said, no. Thakurji is arranging this rain, then how it can damage anything?